மாஸ் கீழப்பாவூர்.
Hi, welcome to Mass Keelapavur channel. I am Dr. Aruna Shanmugavel. In this video, we are going to discuss the connections of motor nucleus of facial nerve, connections of facial nerve, and clinical anatomy. Before entering the session, let us see a quote. Dream the impossible, seek the unknown, achieve greatness. Shall we enter into the session? The motor nucleus of facial nerve lies deep in the reticular formation in pons. It receives fibers from motor area of cerebral cortex through corticonuclear fibers. It is also connected with other cranial nerve nuclei through the medial longitudinal fasciculus. Let us see the motor nucleus of facial nerve in detail to understand the clinical features. The contralateral corticonuclear fibers reach both upper and lower part of the motor nucleus. That's why upper and lower parts of face are supplied by opposite side corticonuclear fibers. But the ipsilateral corticonuclear fibers reach the upper part of the motor nucleus, and that is the reason these fibers supply the upper part of the face of same side. The fibers from cerebral cortex till the motor nucleus are upper motor neurons, whereas efferent fibers from the nucleus are called lower motor neurons. Any lesion in upper motor neuron is called supranuclear lesion. Any lesion in either nucleus of facial nerve or in the facial nerve fibers are called infranuclear lesion. Let us see the connections of facial nerve. When the facial nerve crosses the internal acoustic meatus, it communicates with eighth nerve, that is vestibulocochlear nerve. At the geniculate ganglion, the facial nerve communicates with pterygopalatine ganglion through greater petersal nerve, otic ganglion through lesser petersal nerve, middle meningeal sympathetic plexus through external petersal nerve. In the facial canal, the facial nerve communicates with auricular branch of vagus nerve. 6 mm above the stylomastate foramen through chorda tympani, it joins with the lingual nerve. Just below the stylomastate foramen, the facial nerve communicates with glossopharyngeal nerve, vagus nerve, great auricular nerve, and auriculotemporal nerve. Behind the auricle, the facial nerve communicates with lesser occipital nerve. In the face, it communicates with branches of trigeminal nerve. In the neck, it communicates with transverse cutaneous nerve of neck. To remember all these communications, try to keep these 2 points in your mind. One is that for effective coordination between the movements of the muscles of first, second, and third branchial arches, the motor nerves of these 3 arches communicate with each other, right? The first arch nerve is mandibular nerve, the second arch nerve is facial nerve, and the third arch nerve is glossopharyngeal nerve. Remember the second point, that the facial nerve communicates with the sensory nerves distributed over its motor territory. Facial nerve is the motor nerve for the face, and trigeminal nerve and branches from cervical plexus are the sensory supply for the face. And so, this motor and sensory fibers communicate. Shall we move on to the clinical anatomy of facial nerve? Paralysis of facial nerve may occur due to lesion anywhere in the course of upper motor or lower motor neurons. In supranuclear lesions of the facial nerve, the lower half of the face is affected on the opposite side. Since the upper facial muscles are supplied by bilateral cortical nuclear fibers, they are not affected. Nuclear lesion is very rare. It may occur in poliomyelitis or progressive bulbar paralysis. In this lesion, all the facial muscles on the side of lesion are paralyzed. The injury may involve nucleus of abducent nerve which supplies lateral rectus muscle. If abducent nucleus is also involved, the patient along with lower motor neuron paralysis of the face will also have medial deviation of eye. The most common type of infranuclear lesion is Bell's palsy. This is due to primary ischemia of the nerve due to vasospasm. The nerve is affected near the stylomastoid foramen. Remember, the facial muscles may also be paralyzed in interruption of upper motor neuron, that is corticonuclear fibers also. The effects of paralysis are due to the failure of concerned muscles to perform their normal actions. The normal face is more or less symmetrical. This symmetry will be lost when the facial nerve is paralyzed. Due to paralysis of occipitofrontalis, normal furrows on the forehead will be lost. The paralysis of orbicularis oculi leads to drooping of eyelid and wider palpebral fissure. Eye cannot be closed and this is called epiphora. Conjunctival reflex is also lost. Due to the paralysis of orbicularis oris and of muscles inserted into the angle of mouth, we can observe marked asymmetry of mouth. The angle of mouth deviates towards the normal side. The paralysis of buccinata results in accumulation of food in the vestibule of mouth. If the lesion is proximal to the origin of chorda tympani, there will be loss of taste sensation from anterior two-thirds of tongue and loss of salivation from submandibular and sublingual salivary glands. If the lesion is proximal to the origin of nerve to stapedius, hyperacousia will be the result. In this condition, due to paralysis of stapedius muscle, even normal sounds appear too loud. If the lesion is proximal to geniculate ganglion, greater petersal nerve will be affected, leading to loss of lacrimation. At the same time, regenerating fibers for submandibular salivary gland grow in the endoneural sheaths of preganglionic secretomotor fibers supplying the lacrimal gland. So, the patient will lacrimate while eating. This condition is called as crocodile tears syndrome. Involvement of geniculate ganglia by herpes zoster results in Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. The symptoms are hyperacusis, loss of lacrimation, loss of taste sensation in anterior two-thirds of tongue, Bell's palsy and lack of salivation, vesicles on the auricle. In newborns, the mastoid process is absent and stylomastoid foramen is superficial. Manipulation of baby's head during delivery may damage facial nerve and causes paralysis of facial muscles. Paralysis of buccinator affects sucking of milk. Millard-Gubler syndrome is due to unilateral lesion in ventral part of pons. It results in ipsilateral abducens nerve palsy, ipsilateral facial nerve palsy, contralateral hemiplegia. Shall we end up this session with a quote? We are all a little broken, but the last time I checked, broken crayons still color the same. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon, select all to get instant notifications.